Okay, family, let's get into our first Python lesson. Okay, we're going to actually create a Python program, and I'm going to show you guys actually how to not only create it, but then how to run it as well. All right, so that's what we do in Python. We create programs, we write this code. All right, any code you write becomes a program, and then we need to actually run it. So that way we can see some kind of output or see some kind of action, execute something. Okay, so just bear with me. I'm going to talk pretty slow just because I really want this to kind of marinate slowly into your brain. So it's no rush. You may hear some pauses here and there just because I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, I don't want to miss anything. So right now I'm inside of PyCharm. PyCharm is an IDE, right? It's an integrated development environment, just somewhere where we can do a lot of cool stuff. Up in the navigation bar at the top, you'll see a lot of different options. I highly suggest that you go to jetbrains.com and go to the tutorial section for PyCharm. I'm going to walk you through everything, right? The file section is where we can create new files. Edit is where we can do different things like duplicate lines or copy and paste, things like that. We got the view menu where we can kind of like do things like find recent files. Right here we got documentation for different functions and things like that. So right now you won't need any of this up front except for maybe the run. Run is how we actually run our program. So if I click run right now, nothing's going to happen because we don't have anything to run, right? Here's my code, right? I have some code right here, but guess what? Inside of this is nothing but comments. A comment is literally just a way to kind of like write text that's like human readable. It's just for me and you, just for me and you and any other developers that come and check out this code. All right, so this is comments. There's a few different ways to write comments. So this first line right here, you see a comment starts with a pound symbol or a hashtag, right? So you write hashtag and then you write some text and it's a comma, it's a comment. And what that means is when you run this program, it's not going to be executed. It's not executable code. It's literally there just to give directions or give hints or even to leave reminders for yourself or for other people. Okay. All right. For example, I can type to do, right? And it makes a yellow, meaning like this is what I need to do. Right. So it's literally just like a way for us to do different things. Okay. So these are all of the things that we need to do, right? Because these are some action items. Pretty cool with PyCharm. If you type to do all capital with a colon at the end, I believe it's going to highlight yellow. So that way it stands out from other comments. Okay. Some comments you may not need to be a to do. Also, another way to do a comment is to do 3 apostrophes, 1, 2, 3 on the beginning and at the end, and that anything in between those 3 apostrophes is now a comment. Okay. So I'm gonna walk through these comments one line at a time. So these comments that you see here, this is all pseudocode. Literally, we're going to turn these lines of pseudocode. Pseudocode just means plain English, and we're going to turn that pseudocode into actual code, Python code. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I already wrote the pseudocode out for you guys, and then we're going to walk through how to actually create it. Okay. So here we have one more way to do comments is with 3 double quotes, okay, double quotation marks. So you type 3 of those. PyCharm will automatically add 3 more at the end, and then you can type your comment here. Oops, sorry for the glitch. Okay, so that's another way to add a comment. So comments, like I said, will be very important. 1, to write pseudocode. 2, to leave to-dos for yourself. 3, to describe what's happening in your code. Let's say you write a function and it's complicated, right? It's important to comment that code, right? Because you may look at that code again a year from now and you'll be like, what the heck did I do? I wrote this, like, I don't even remember what I was thinking. And it's going to happen a lot. So all of us do it. All of us programmers do this where we write code. It works, it's fine, but then we come back to it months later and we don't even remember what it does or how it works. It's so many different lines. So early on, I want to teach you guys about the importance of just writing comments. Okay. So let's walk through this. Also, just to go over here to the left-hand side, you'll see a project section. This is over here is where our project is at. Okay. So I named this project lesson one. Okay. Lesson one. To create a project, you just go to file, new project, and then it's going to say, okay, you want to create it inside of your folder called PyCharm projects. If you're in Visual Studio Code or Atom or any other text editor, something similar will, it's the same thing, same process, just file, new project. One thing I would suggest is add another folder inside of the PyCharm projects folder or inside the Visual Studio Code folder, right? I call mine Unlock Academy Tutorials, right? You can do that by clicking on a little folder and then clicking on new folder. The reason why this is important is because you just want to organize your projects, right? You're going to have a bunch of different projects, but then you're going to have one called lesson one. You may have another one called lesson two, right? So this one right here I call it Unlock Academy Tutorials, and then another folder called lesson one. Okay. So I already created it. It's right here. It's going to give you a couple extra files as well. We'll talk about these later. Not important right now. The main thing is once your project is created, the next thing you want to do is you want to right click on your project and click new, and then not file, not new scratch file, not directory. This is how you create a new directory. This is how you create a new Python package. We'll talk about what a Python package is. You want to create a new Python file, okay? And I want you to name that file main.py. Main just means this is like my main file I'm going to be working out of. Later on, you can name these files just about anything. The main thing is, and you don't have to, usually you add .py, but because we already said it's a Python file, we don't have to add .py. It's going to add that automatically, okay? So create a new project. Then you create a new file inside of that project by right-clicking on your project folder. Name that file main.py, okay? So once that's created, you're going to get a blank file. It's going to look like this, blank as heck, right? But I already started and I added some comments. Now these comments is going to describe the program we're about to create. The program we're about to create is pretty much a salary estimator, right? For a software developer. If you want to figure out how much money you should be making, we're going to first ask for some information from the user and then use that information to tell them how much money they can expect to make. We're going to start off really simple with this project, really simple. So we're going to ask them how many years of experience do they have? That's what we're going to ask our users. So we're going to say insert how many years of experience you have, and based on how much experience they have, we're going to output how much money they should expect to make. Okay, really simple project. As we get deeper into it, we're going to ask them not just how much experience they have coding, but also how much education they have. Like, have you been learning for a year, for 2 years, 3 years? That will also affect your salary. We're also going to ask, like, what is your location? Because some people get paid more based on where they actually live. So we're going to just really bring this thing to life. We're going to add like a user interface to it as well. But for now, let's just go ahead and start turning its pseudocode into actual code. Okay. So what we have right here is our first to do, right? Our first pseudocode item says, ask the user to input their experience by asking them a question using the input function, okay? The input function. So Python comes with a bunch of built-in functions, right? Input is one of them. Another one you're going to see today is called print. Print means just print to the screen. Input means ask the user, like we're going to run this program. Our program is going to pause and wait for input from the user. You're going to see it. So I'll show you right now. So if I say users experience, right? How much experience do they have? Equal. So right, what I'm going to do is just so you see what's happening. Up top is my pseudocode, and down below I'm going to turn that pseudocode into actual code. So it's no hashtag in front of it, no quotation marks, because this is real Python code. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a variable, and that variable is called user experience. User's experience. And what's going to happen is we're going to ask for input, and whatever they input, we're going to store it in a variable called user's experience. A variable is literally just a container. It holds values. It holds information, right? It holds information. It can hold a number. It can hold a string. It can hold a string is just a series of characters like a name or a place or a sentence. It can hold a whole function. A function is just a series of commands. So we're going to talk more about variables as we go along. But first, I just want to show you how we're going to write our first Python program. So we're going to ask for the user's experience. So we say input. This is a function, like I said, built in. And to write a function, you write the keyword, which is input. Then you do 2 quotation marks. And quotation marks just signify that this is a function, meaning we wanted to execute some type of set of actions. Okay. And then inside of that, we're going to put 2 quotation marks because you don't have to. You can leave it like this, and this is just going to ask the user for input. Let's see what happens. So to run this program, remember what we want to do is, oh, you know what? Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print, right, user's experience. And you see PyCharm automatically completed that for me. So 2 lines. The first line says user's experience equals input. We're going to just like allow the user to input something, right? Whatever they input, we're then going to print it out to the screen on the very next line. So let's watch how this works. So you go up here to run, or you can go to run up here. Okay. Click that, run. Okay. So as of right now, user's experience equals input. It's just waiting for some input. I say hello, and then it just prints out hello to the screen because I told it to. Okay. So that's just very basic what input does. It just waits for the user to input something. But our program would suck if we don't tell the user what to input. All right. So let's tell the user what to input. Like I said, we want to ask them for what is their experience. So we put a string, which is just a series of characters, a sentence, a word, something like that. And it has to be surrounded by double quotation marks, 2 quotation marks. So if you put that inside of this input function, it's going to print it out for you. So we're going to say, how many years experience do you have developing software? Okay. So that's a question. So now let's run this program again, and this time look way at the bottom of the screen. Watch what happens this time. This is the Python terminal right here. This is the interpreter. It's interpreting our Python, and it's going to run it and execute these codes, literally 1 line at a time. So click run again, and now you see this. It says, how many years experience do you have developing? So now I can input my value. I'm gonna say I have 10 years experience, and then boom, it prints out 10. Okay. So that's what we wanted for the first line. At least we wanted it to ask the user input for their experience by asking them a question. So we did it. We asked them a question. So line number 1 is done. I'm gonna take away the to do because we don't need to do that anymore. We did it. Okay. So just take a second, look at the code up front. Up here we have the actual pseudocode and the real code. Down here we have the Python terminal where we see the output of the program and where it actually, when it gets executed, what happens. Okay, you don't always have to ask the user for input. Sometimes you may just want to do a calculation, right? Literally, mathematicians use Python to just write a bunch of code that just says, okay, how do you like add up all of these numbers for me, or figure out the distance between 2 cities, right? And it just outputs the distance. So there's different things you can do. You'll see there's a lot that we can do. But for now, we just want the user experience. We want to print it out to the screen. Our next to do is use an if-else statement to check if the user chose option 1, 2, 3, or 4. So another thing we need to do is we need to give them what are their options, okay? What are their options? So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, we're going to print out right here, we're going to say, if they insert a 1, that means they have less than 1 year experience, okay? Keep on going. If they insert a 2, that means they have 1, 2, 3 years of experience. Okay. If they insert a 3, they have 3 to 8 years of experience. And then if they insert a 4, they have 8+ years of experience. So this is us making it easy for our users, and we're telling them these are your options. We want you to input a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. And depending on which one you insert, we're going to know what your level of experience is. Okay, so let's run this again and see what it looks like now. Okay, so the question here says, how many years experience do you have developing software? 1, less than 1 year. 2, 1 to 3 years experience. 3, 3 to 8 years of experience. Or 4, 8 years of experience. Okay. So this is important because on the next line, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing something called a conditional statement. We're going to be checking different conditions. We're going to check, a condition just means is something true or false. Okay, there's conditions in every language: Python, JavaScript, C, Java. All of these different languages have this if-else statement. So if you can learn it here, you can learn it in any other language as well. So we're going to be doing like, if the user put in 1, print out this statement that says expect between $40,000 and $60,000 for your level of experience. Okay, so let's see how we convert that. So to do that in Python, we would just type the keyword if, and we'll say if users experience, because that's what that number that they type in is going to be stored inside of this variable called users experience. If users experience equals 1, okay, then you do a colon. So this is how you check a condition, right? You do if, and then you type in the condition right here, which is users experience double equal sign. So 2 equal signs means check for equality, right? Are these 2 equal? 1 equal signs mean store into a variable. That means like make this equal to whatever gets put over here. So this right here is what they're going to input. They're going to insert 1, 2, 3, or 4. Whatever they input, we're going to store it over here. So that's what the 1 equal sign means. The 2 equal sign means check for equivalence. Are they equal to each other? Okay. So if it's equal to 1, we're going to print, and I'm going to provide some links to every single thing I'm talking about, from the equal signs to if else to comments. In the course section, you're going to see links for each and every one of those so you can dive deeper into it. Sometime when you are learning how to code and learning a new language, you may not get it the first time, but if somebody gives you more deeper reading to get into, or other videos and resources, it'll click as you learn more and keep on ingraining yourself into it. So for now, just make sure you're following along and just know the logic. That's the key thing, walking through the steps one line at a time. So we want to print out this statement right here, which says, okay, I'm going to put, so when you want to print something, you have to put it in double quotations as well, if it's like a string or a sentence. Okay, so this says expect between $40,000 and $60,000 for your level of experience. Okay, I'm going to delete that print there. We don't need that print anymore because we're only going to print out based on what they select. So stop this, right? And let's run it again. How many years of experience do you have developing software? And let's say I type in a 1. Let's see, users experience equals 1. Okay, so it didn't print out anything because this did not come out true. Now, why did this not come out true? I'm going to tell you why. The main reason why this did not come out true is because when I put in 1, input turned that 1 into a string. So it actually turned it into this right here. Not just the number 1, but a string 1. Because anything you put into the input comes back as pretty much a character or a string. It's expecting you to type in some type of message, okay, not a number. So let's see what happened when I run it again. So I'm gonna show you how to turn whatever the person inputs into a number. But first, I just want to make sure that this works. So how much experience do you have? I type in 1. Oops, I typed in 2 things. Let me run that again. I type in 1. Okay, for real, this time I'm gonna type in 1. Okay, 1, boom. There goes my message. Expect between $40,000 and $60,000 for your level of experience. Okay, so it worked right there. It worked now because I typed in 1. If I type in any other number, right? Let's see what happens when I type in a 2. Nothing happens. It doesn't print out anything else. It just says process finish with exit code 0, which means everything worked out successfully. Process exit code 0 means everything went well. So why didn't it print out my message? Because the user's experience, what they inserted was not a 1. We actually inserted a 2. All right. So what I want to show you guys though is, let's remove these strings, right? We don't want it to be strings. They inserted numbers. So our code should turn that into an actual number. So how do we do that? What we do is we wrap this around, we wrap something called, this is called converting. So we're going to convert this string into, so we're going to convert 1, and when we're done with it, it's going to become a 1, right? It's going to look like that. Just a regular 1 opposed to a string. Instead of a sentence, instead of a word, it's actually a number, okay? So this is just test code. Don't worry, this is a bug. Don't worry about that. I'm not keeping that there. But I just want you to see, after you wrap anything with a int function, this is a function right here called int. Anytime you wrap that with int, it's going to turn that string, see if it's a number inside of it, and convert it into a number. Okay. So that's that. If they insert 1, that's what's going to get print out. But what if they don't insert that? We need to continue to check. So with Python, there's a way to do a new check for like another condition, and so way to do that is to use a elif, ELIF. That means else if, right? There's another one that's called else. You'll see that in a second. Else means if not this, then do whatever is next here, and just put what to happen here. This is like the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. Or default case, right? If none of the other stuff work, do what's lastly in this else here. But else if, elif, this means if not that, else check to see if user experience equals 2. Let's check that. And if that's true, I'm gonna copy and paste this message, and now their salary will be between 60,000 and 80,000 a year. Okay. So now that works right there. Expected indent. Now what else though? There's another elif. There's another one. Let's say they insert a 3. Elif int, meaning convert user's experience into an integer. Convert into an integer and see if that integer is equal to 3. Remember, double equal sign equals equivalence. See if it's equivalent. Okay. And we want to print out over here. It says we want the message if they insert 3. Else, if the users chose option 3, print out expect between 80,000 and 120,000. Okay. But then what if they insert 4? Let's check to see. If they insert 4, right? Right here it says print out expect at least $130,000 for your levels of experience. Of course, this varies based on a lot of things, different factors. That's why we're going to bring this to life and try to make it more exact based on other things. All right. So if the user experience converted to a number equals 4, then print out expect at least $130,000 a year for your level of experience. Okay? So these are the 4 cases that we talked about. Else if, else if, else if. I'm gonna delete this else for now because it's giving me a bug until I add the rest of the code. But for now, okay? So user experience equals input. We want to get the input from the command line, from the terminal, whatever they type in, okay? And then we want to check to see what that input is. Is it a 1? Is it a 2? Is it a 3? Or is it a 4? Based on which one they insert, we should print out some text to the screen. Let's run it. All right. So one more thing I want to do before we do that. I don't like how this is all on one line. So in Python, there's a way to add line breaks, right? Line breaks. So let's say after this first sentence, how many years of experience do you have? You can add a line break by doing a \n. Okay. I also want to do a line break after each option. So \n, you just put it wherever you want a new line break. \n, and then \n. And then even at the end, I want to do a \n because I want the user to put their information on a brand new line. So watch what that does. So now it says, look at this down here. How many years of experience do you have developing software on a line by itself? On the next line, it says less than 1 year. Then in the new line, it says 1 to 3 years. Then it says 3 to 8 years. Then it says 8 years. Okay. I could delete some of this extra space. I got a couple lines of extra space here. We can get rid of. Cool. Let's rerun it. See how it looks. All right. Look, I like that. It's really neat. So now when we type, our input is going to go on a brand new line. So if I type in 1, see what happens. Expect between $40,000 to $60,000 for your level of experience. Cool. Let's try it again. Rerun it. If I type in a 2, expect between $60,000 and $80,000 for your level of experience. Cool. Let's try it again. Type in a 3, between $80,000 and $120,000. Cool. And let's try it one more time. 4. Expect at least $130,000 for your level of experience. Cool. So our first few lines of pseudocode are complete. Okay, we did that, so we can get rid of the to do. We could keep the pseudocode there. That way we know what the code is supposed to be doing, right? But there's one thing left to do. What if they don't insert any of those? What if they don't insert a 1, a 2, or 3, or a 4? Your code, as a developer, your code needs to make sure it checks for bad input, for blank input as well. So for homework, I want you to work on that. I want you to enter a default message if the user does not enter a valid option. Okay, so that's really key. But this is the code. This is what we need to do. We got most of it done. I'm going to give you some links so you can read more about ifs and else ifs and else's. That way you can add something down here, a message if none of these are true. How would you do that? Okay, so that's what I want you guys to work on. I'm also going to have some reading for you guys to do for homework, so check that out as well. And if you have any questions, you already know, jump into Python Slack group, Slack channel, and I'll be glad to help you out. Okay, hope you found this helpful, and unlock.